It's Chad here, are you ready to go? I'm ready to go. Yeah, I'm ready to fly.
Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with artist, musician, and brand creator Chad Lewine. Since he was 5 years old, he knew he wanted to be a rock star. Yet the reasons for the music have shifted throughout his life. During the second half of 2022, his mission fully crystallized. Through the turbulent end of an abusive relationship and a renewed and confident sense about his music, Pop for Good was born, and the first proper brand was developed for his artistry. With an image that matches his outspoken, somewhat existential and controversial perspective, he has fully owned his mission and is releasing his first single from an upcoming EP, Dark Nights, on February 15th, 2023. We get into all of this and so much more. Enjoy this interview.
Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So before we get into your life and what you do, you know, the last couple of years with the pandemic and everything that went into it, how did you survive COVID, and how has that changed the way that not only you live your life, but the way that you conduct business?
I'm going to preface this with, I have worked for myself from home my entire life. So that part didn't change for me. I do web design and things surrounding that since I was a young adult. But aside from that, I'll speak on how COVID did change me. So during COVID, I moved from my hometown, Philadelphia, outside of Philadelphia, after coming back from New York City. I left New York City like 6 months before COVID and was chilling in my hometown, and then moved to Rochester, New York to pursue what then became a kind of definitely a cult. And so I was in Rochester, New York, a city I didn't know, in this, what I call the world's smallest cult, in a house by myself for 8 to 12 months. That was my COVID experience. Complete and utter isolation. I mean, everyone was isolated, but this was like in a whole different level. I wasn't and initially on the surface, I didn't feel like I was upset. Now I've been through a year of therapy and realizing how screwed up I was. But the one thing it gave me was the chance to do my music, get better at my music, be loud, sing, experiment, record whenever I wanted, however I wanted for that duration of that time. So I think what I took from COVID personally was a explosion of growth in the creative department. Aside from a crap ton of anxiety and depression, like most people, and, you know, heavy alcohol problem during that time as well, which I'm pretty much recovered from. It was the single most condensed period of my life where I got better at my craft.
So what was the moment you realized you were involved with the cult?
So now this is the first time I'm speaking about it. I've been preparing myself to speak about it, but this is the first time I'm speaking about it in a public format. Just FYI. So
sure.
I realized, I had people had been telling me for quite a while, for like a year or two before. Now, I had been involved with this person for 10 years virtually. It was a long-term grooming, you know, the whole thing that, you know, that it checks all the cult boxes except like sex and money. I guess not realizing it and admitting it are separate but related. So I guess I realized there was a chance towards the end of 2020, which was the high point of the pandemic, right? One of the high points. And then I admitted to myself, and I got out and I left, basically New Year's Eve 2020.
Gotcha. So let me do this. Let me get an exact handle on what you do for a living. If you are put in front of a room of third graders at a career day right now, and one of them looks up at you and says, "What do you do for a living?" how would you answer them?
Ooh, this is such a sticky question for an artist, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess you're asking it strategically on purpose because it's a sticky question. I would say that, I'm in an interesting transitional period as well, but I would say that in order to live life in today's society, you third grader, in order to live today and be an adult, I perform a service, and that service is web design and marketing for businesses. But I that is my vocation currently. But I spend the same amount of time and effort and more passion into my musical art. So I'm an artist who does something else to make a living, which is not uncommon, obviously. But I really want to kind of make a PSA to anyone listening. If you have artist friends that aren't making a full income on it, try to be careful about how you talk about it around them, because you can accidentally insult and offend artists very easily and discourage them and dismiss them unintentionally. If people ask like, "Oh, are you making a living from it?" and I say no, immediately my art is discounted. I want to like kind of change the narrative on how we talk about artists and income. And I think that's a conversation that is actually happening, and especially on social media. Lots of artists are talking about making it not taboo to be an artist and not define yourself, not having to make a living to be defined as an artist.
Oh, I 100% agree. I think that should be a forefront conversation, and I think that everybody out there should be encouraged to live the life they do, because there's a lot of people that have to subsidize things, but if you keep that dream intact, that's the main thing.
Yes, love that.
So when you were a kid, you wanted to be a rock star. Mm-hmm. So my question to you is, are you happy with how everything turned out?
Oh, I mean, it hasn't even turned yet. I would say for most of my life, I was, let's say, disappointed with me not blowing up and becoming famous by 21, right? So I had the dream, and it was like I guess you read on my website that the reason for the dream has shifted over time. In the beginning, you don't really know much. You just know that you have a talent, people like your talent, and you are pushed or opened to a road of pursuing that. So, sidebar, I thought that I didn't get my break by the time I was 18, so I thought that I was just over and there was no chance for me. So I gave up on the dream from 17 to 19 years old. And then once I started, I had the momentum going. I a couple years of not doing it, and then I had a spark and started again. I haven't stopped since. And from that point, which was 2009, up until about 2 years ago, I was very disappointed at where I wasn't. I was disappointed that I wasn't further along. I had grown a lot. I had a lot of songs and records available under my belt. I had performance. I had everything, but it just wasn't clicking. And I know why now. I mean, I know why now. That's a whole different conversation. But there was disappointment. I wasn't where I thought I was going. I thought I was going to be famous in 3 years. When I first started in 2009, I was working with a guy, the guitarist from the Spin Doctors, at his studio in Raritan. I had a full album produced in a year, radio quality, and I was moving to New York City, and I was like, okay, this is going to happen. I have all this going. I've got talent. I've got this, and this. There's no way that I'm not going to get picked up. Mind you, this is the beginning of the music moving to the internet. Spotify is around the corner. They're not looking for talent the same way they were even 2 years before I started. So I'm kind of caught in this transitional time. And then now, in the past 2 years, I have reframed the way that I've looked at my whole life, my career, my output, my mission, right? That's a huge part of why I feel much more confident and why things are moving along now the way that they feel like they should have been all along. So does that answer it?
Yeah, absolutely it does. The one thing, too, that's very key in our development are people that we look up to. Who's been a hero or a role model for you?
Okay. Well, okay, so hero and role model, let's split them up. Role model, well, for much of my life, it was these spiritual gurus who half of them ended up being culty. But spiritual leaders are my role models, I would say, in life, because that covers. I've recently come to learn that I'm a little bit of an existentialist. There's a little bit of a negative connotation to that, which I don't agree with, but I definitely contemplate life and existence all the time. I always have, and that's a part of spirituality. So the people that do that for their life's purpose, they're my role model. I look up to them. heroes, I think, are, I mean, I can't really place one, but I guess heroes are like people that have helped me personally, friends that have helped me personally, colleagues that have helped me personally, on to a fault, like that haven't been wishy-washy. I mean, specifically, I would say there's one person who always stands out. Her name is Michelle Sullivan, and she's a person who is like pretty influential in the industry, high up in the music industry. Hi, Michelle, if you're listening. And we're good friends. We've lost touch, but I thought she was going to be my big break, right? I met her when I moved into a loft in New York, and I was like, oh, this is it. I know somebody who knows the record labels I'm in. No, it didn't happen. But she put me on a path to where I'm at now. And also I would say Mike Rogers, who produced Boomerang, my biggest song to date. He got the performer out of me. He brought the attitude, the character, the recording artist out of me. And I wouldn't be the same without the pillars that the two of them instilled in me.
If you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now and talk to them, who would you love to meet?
Probably Sadhguru, who is an Indian spiritual leader. He's taken up a lot of my Instagram feed right now, and I'm very wary of following people, right? I'm watching for red flags of cultiness, of narcissism, of abuse. I don't see it with him. I'm not going to proclaim that it's 100% safe, but it most likely is. That's off the top of my head, that's number one.
What was the first concert that you ever saw that made you think that you wanted to be a musician?
Okay, the first live concert?
Yeah, first live show.
Well, I would say that I knew when I was 5. That's when I wanted to be. But the first live concert I really saw of a established artist was Pink in 99, 2000, like her first or second tour. And she's from my hometown, so that was pretty cool. And she actually happens to know my half-sister. So it was a cool experience to go see Pink at the Tower Theater. That was my first concert.
So, based on what you've lived in your life up to this point, if you have a dream tonight and you run into the very young version of yourself, and you could give that version a piece of advice based on the wisdom that you've gained throughout your life up to this point, what would you tell your young version?
This is what I always tell people when they ask me what I would give advice to either my young self or other people, is that to not listen to anyone. Now, take advice from people you trust after a certain point, but don't listen to anyone if it doesn't resonate. You take advice in, but process it through your gut, your intuition, and then see if you're going to follow it or not. Don't take advice just because it worked for someone else, or they proclaim that it worked for someone else, because everyone's different, and especially in the music industry, it's coming to light that there's no one fit, there's no one blueprint for every person. So listen to your gut, bottom line. Every time, listen to your gut. Like, no exceptions.
Yeah, for sure. What's been the best compliment that you've ever gotten for anything you've created?
This is an interesting question, because I've been learning that I filter out the good and focus on the bad. So, and I'm working on changing that, but that's been my MO for most of my life. I mean, I get quite often, relatively often, that my message is positive and needed, and I'm just doubling down on that. And that's all that's like the highest compliment I can give. If the message gets across, great. If the beats are good, great.
Let me ask you this. At the end of the day, when you lean back and you think about everything that you've done, because every day we wake up and we have things that we want to do, how do you quantify a good day? How do you, at the end of the day, make yourself feel like that was a good day?
Okay, this is like a great therapy session. You're asking me all the tough questions that I'm dealing with in life. It's a tough to answer that, and I think if most people are honest with themselves, most people would be tough to answer. What's a good day? I mean, most people will be like, oh, I woke up and I'm healthy and I have a home. Okay, yeah, whatever. Like, that's true, but that's a cop-out. Like, let's be real. Like, what does it take for you to personally be happy? And I'm going to answer that with, lately, not even lately, but for most of my adult life, if I get income, that's a good day because I work for myself. Or if I work on music and I feel like I've taken a step in any vertical of my music career, if it's marketing, if it's visual design, if it's the music itself, if it's meeting a connection, if it's gaining a follower, any micro step forward in music, I feel like that's a good day.
So this is the final therapy question, but it's the biggest one, and I'm going to ask you this. Okay? Everyone out there has a perception of you, an idea of who they think you are. Your family, your friends, your fans, colleagues, clients. But ultimately, you live your life. You're in control of how you live your existence. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, my God, really good one, because I'm just starting to learn. My only identity was my talent, and that wasn't quantified unless I was on the top of the charts or had a record deal or was famous. So I have been living a life of the complete vacuum of self-value, a complete lack of self-worth and self-value. So that's hard to answer. But I guess I can answer it now. I'm a messenger. But I'm just like everyone else, right? I've just been given whatever the tools are, the environment to tap into what's bigger about existence, life, Earth, universe, and to try to deliver that message. That's at a baseline. That's my purpose in this lifetime. That's who I am, and everything comes after that. If my message is getting out there, I feel good. That's a good way. If my message is getting out there, I feel like I had a good day. But I'm not I have this thing where I made a reel on Instagram, and it's I'm not an effing singer. And that's kind of answering your question in a weird way of in the industry or in the world, everyone, the world tries to define you by one thing. And I don't think that's not fair. That's not even correct. We can be many things, and we can also be like, I am a singer, but I'm not a singer. I am a songwriter, but I'm not the best, right? I am a singer, but I'm not the best singer. I'm a songwriter, but I'm not the best songwriter. I'm a this, I'm not the best that, but I am the best me. I'm the best messenger. I am the best, I think the best me, and I'm actually like making myself feel pretty good just saying that. 2023 is the year of a better me. That's what I'm thinking.
So a slight addendum, a slight minor, since you're kind of in this, discovery, transitory kind of period of your life, let's say we talk in 5 years and I'm like, what's up? And I ask you, what's happened? What are you going to be the happiest to tell me that's happened, hopefully, here in the next 5 years?
The movement that I've started with my music has infiltrated and has saturated, maybe not saturated because that's not quite the word I want, but that the message has made its way to the mainstream. That's what it is. That it's like I've sparked others because I can't do it by myself. I'm not the only one with this knowledge. I'm not the only one with this mission, but I am one of the only ones that's saying it right now. So I would say in 5 years, I'd be very happy to see this mission, this being talked about and acted upon in healing the mainstream. And that's going to include my career taking off, like for sure. But I've learned to not base it all on my own career, my own stats. It's like how many more artists out there have woken up and raised their hands. That's the way to measure it.
So Chad, if anybody out there wants to get involved with your music, your art, your services, web design, anything revolving around your world, where can they go?
So you can go to chadlewine.com. That's ChadLewine.com. for all things music. If you want some web design or marketing, anything around that, SEO especially, that's 15 years later, it's just kind of becoming a known word. That's chadworks.co.
Perfect, Chad. Hey, thank you for opening up. Good luck with everything, man. Have a great 2023, and I appreciate all the time you gave me.
Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to sharing it.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube, and you could find us on Apple, iTunes, or Spotify. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.